శ్రీ ముత్తవరపు వెంకటేశ్వరరావు కాలేజ్ ఆఫ్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ 2008 లో స్థాపించిన కళాశాలలో MBA, NAC A గ్రేడ్ మరియు ISO సర్టిఫికేషన్ సాధించిన మొట్టమొదటి కళాశాల శ్రీ ముత్తవరపు వెంకటేశ్వరరావు కాలేజ్ ఆఫ్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ త్వరలో అటానమస్ కాబోతోంది.
2014 లో ISO గుర్తింపు, 2015 లో రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వంచే A గ్రేడ్, 2016 లో NAC A గ్రేడ్, ఇప్పుడు NBA సాధించిన సంస్థ శ్రీ ముత్తవరపు వెంకటేశ్వరరావు కాలేజ్ ఆఫ్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ.
Good morning all. In our previous session, we have seen CW altimeter and what are the different types of errors and what are the different types of measurements we see there. Now in this class, we will try to cover multiple frequency CW radar. So as we earlier said that in our previous classes, we have seen CW radar with single frequency. Now we are going with CW radar with multiple frequency. So multiple frequency means what we consider more than two frequencies, more than a single frequency or more than two frequencies. In our example, we have taken the two frequencies. Now we'll see how CW radar can be employed by using the multiple frequency. So although it is said in our previous classes, CW does not measure the range, but it is possible under some methods to do by measuring the phase of the echo signal relative to the phase of the transmitter signal. Consider a CW radar radiating a single frequency sine wave or the form of sine 2 pi f naught t. So here the amplitude of the signal is taken to be unity. So unity, that is for the signal 1, since it does not influence the result. The signal travels to the target at the range of r and returns to the radar. After a time, D is equals to 2r divided by c. So already I have seen why I have taken D is equals to 2r divided by c in our previous classes. Where c is the velocity of the propagation, we know that the echo signal received at the radar is sine 2 pi f naught t minus t. That is what delay. So t minus t. So there is a time delay. If the transmitted and receiver signals are compared in phase data, the output is proportional to the phase difference between the two. So that is what delta f naught. So delta phi is nothing but what? The phase difference, that is nothing but what? 2 pi f naught t minus 4 pi f naught divided by rc. The phase difference may be given, therefore the measurement of the range is r is equals to c into that is nothing but velocity of the light into delta phi, that is what? The phase difference, and divided by 4 pi f naught. So already we know that c dot by f is nothing but what? Lambda. So lambda divided by 4 pi into the phase difference. However, the measurement of the phase difference delta phi cannot be calculated only if delta f does not exceeds the 2 pi radians. Substituting delta f is equals to delta phi is equals to 2 pi in the equation gives the maximum range as lambda by 2. At radar frequency, this unambiguous range is much too small to be practically used. The region of the unambiguous range may be extended considerably by utilizing two separate CW signals. So differentiating slightly in the frequency. The unambiguous range in this case corresponds to the half wavelength at different frequency. The transmitted waveform is assumed to be consists of two continuous sine waves of frequencies f1 and f2, separated by an amount of delta f. For our convenience, we have taken the amplitude of the signals are set to unity. So why? Because this amplitude does not affect the result. So that is the reason we are not considering the amplitudes. The voltage waveforms of the two components of the transmitter signal are given by V1 t and V2 t. So these equations can be written as V1 t is equals to sine 2 pi f naught f1 t plus phi 1. So phi 1 is nothing but the phase with respect to the first frequency. And second one, the voltage is nothing but V sub h2 into T. So sine of 2 pi f2 T plus phi naught. So this is the phase difference with respect to the second. So whereas the phi 1 and phi 2 are the phase angles. The echo signal is shifted in frequency by the Doppler effect. The form of the Doppler shift signals at each of the two frequencies, and f1 and f2 may be written as V x1 into r. That is what we are considering the Doppler H. So sine 2 by f1 plus or minus f d1. So this is the Doppler frequency with respect to the first one into t minus 4 by f1 into r naught divided by c plus f1. This is the Doppler frequency shift with respect to equation number frequency 1. And V2 of R is equals sine is equals to sine of 2 by f2 plus or minus fd2. So just substitute the second frequency. That is nothing but the Doppler frequency with respect to the second minus 4 by f2 into r naught divided by c plus f naught. So in this equation already we know r naught is nothing but the range, the particular time t is equals to t naught. So that is the reason we have taken r naught rather than r. fd1 is the Doppler frequency shift which is used at frequency f1, and fd2 is nothing but the Doppler frequency which is used at the frequency number 2. So fd1 is the frequency we have calculated at frequency f1, whereas fd2 is the Doppler frequency calculated at the frequency f2. Since two RF frequencies f1 and f2 are almost equal, so that is what f2 is equals to f1 plus or minus delta f. We have considered delta f is far less than f1. The Doppler frequency shifts, that is fd1 and fd2, are almost equal to each other. Therefore, we can write fd1 is equals to fdt is equals to fd. So there is a considered only one Doppler frequency rather than two. So why? Because for our calculations we have seen both the frequencies are almost equal. So we are considering only one single Doppler frequency rather than two. The receiver separates the two components of the echo signal and heterodynes each receiver signal component with the corresponding transmitted waveform and extracts. Extracts means taking the output. The output extracts the two Doppler frequency components. So now we are considering the voltages with respect to Doppler frequencies. So whatever the frequencies we have calculated earlier, so now we are considering these are the voltages at the receiver. V1 D is equals to sine of plus or minus 2 by fdt. Why? Because we are taking only fd. So in our already we have said we are considering only one Doppler frequency rather than two. Fd of t minus 4 by f1 r naught divided by c. So this is the first Doppler frequency received at the receiver. The second one, v2 of t is equals to sine plus or minus 2 by fdt minus 4 by f2 into r naught divided by c. Now we need to calculate the phase difference between these two components. Phase difference is nothing but what? Delta into phi is nothing but what? 4 pi into. So there we have considered two frequencies. So we need to substitute. We need to subtract two frequencies. F2 minus F1 into R naught divided by C. F2 minus F naught is nothing but what? The change in frequency. So that is delta F. 4 pi into delta F into R naught divided by C. By simplification, we'll get R naught is equals to C into delta F, delta phi divided by 4 pi into delta F. The frequency of continuous wave technique for measuring range was described by using the Doppler frequency shift. When the Doppler frequency is 0, as with the we consider as stationary targets, is also possible in principle to extract the phase difference. If the target carries a gone or some other form of echo signal, then the Doppler frequency shift may be simulated by transisting the echo frequency as with the single sideband modulator. The two frequencies of two frequency radars were described as being transmitted simultaneously. They must be transmitted sequentially in some applications by rapidly switching a single RF source. A large difference in the frequency between the two transmitted signals improves the accuracy of the range measurement, since the large delta F means nothing but the frequency change, means proportional to the change in phase. So that is, if the frequency changes, so there is a large change in the phase also for a given range. However, the limit of the delta value, delta F, is depends on delta phi. Since delta phi cannot lesser than 2 pi, if the range is to be unambiguous, the maximum unambiguous range is nothing but what C by 2 into delta F. So that is, the change in frequency must be less than C divided by 2 into R unambiguous. The explanation of the operation of the two frequency radar may be considering both carrier frequency to be phased at zero range. As a progress outwards from the radar, a relative phase difference between the two increases because of their difference in frequency. This phase difference may be used as a measure of the time, which is time taken to reach from the transmitter to the receiver. When the two signals are in same phase, phased by one cycle difference, the measurement of the phase and range becomes unambiguous. The two frequency CW radar is essentially a single target radar, since only one phase difference can be measured at a time. If more than one target is present, the echo signal becomes complicated, and the meaning of the phase measurement is curved. The theoretical accuracy with which range can be measured with the two frequency CW radar can be found in different methods. The theoretical range error. So we have the formula. Delta R is equal to C divided by 4 pi into delta F into 2 E divided by N naught under root. So that is, if we considering the change in the distance, so we need to consider E is equal to energy contained in the receiver signal, and N naught is nothing but the noise power. We calculated that CW waveform is less than a factor of 0.29. The equation indicates that the greater the separation of the delta between the two frequencies, the less will be the RMS error. However, the frequency differences must not be too large if the unambiguous measurement are to be made. The selection of the delta F represents a compromise between the requirements of the accuracy and the ambiguity. Both accurate and ambiguous range measures can be made by transmitting 3 or more frequencies instead of just 2. So now, to understand this more in described way, there we are going with an example. So now they consider 3 frequencies. So F1, F2, and F3. So such that F3 minus F1 is equal to K into F2 minus F1, where K is factor, it's out of 10 or 20 or 30 or all. The pair of frequencies F3 and F1 gives an ambiguous but the accurate range measurement, while the pair of frequencies F2, F1 are chosen close to resolve the ambiguities in the frequencies F3 measurement. If further accuracy is required, a fourth frequency can be transmitted and its ambiguous result may be less accuracy, but unambiguous measurement obtained from these three frequencies, F and MDF, as more frequencies are added, spectrum and target resolution approaches that obtained with a pulse or FMCW wave. The measurement of the range by measuring the phase difference between separated frequencies is analogous to the measurement of the angle made by measuring the phase difference between widely spaced antennas, as in interference antenna. The interferometer antenna gives an accurate but ambiguous measurement of angle. The ambiguities may be resolved by adding antennas spaced close to them. The spacing between the individual antennas in the interferometer system corresponds to the separation between the frequencies in the multiple frequency distance measuring techniques. The system is an example of an interferometer in which the angular ambiguities are resolved in a manner similar to what we have discussed in the dash classes. The multiple CW radar technique has been applied to the accurate measurement of the distance in surviving in missile guidance. The master unit transmits a frequency of around 3000 MHz with 4 single sidebands, modulated frequency separated by a carrier 1009.90, and the 10 MHz difference frequencies provides the basic accuracy measure, while the difference frequencies of 1 MHz, 100 kHz, and 10 kHz permits the resolution of ambiguities. The remote until at the other end of the line receives the signal from the master unit and amplifies and retransmits them. The phase of the return signals at the master unit are compared with the phases of the outgoing signals. Since the master and the remote units are stationary, there is no Doppler shift. The function of the Doppler frequency is provided by modulating the retransmitted signals at the remote unit in such a manner that around 1 to 1 kHz wave frequency is obtained from the heterodynic process at the receiver of the master unit. The phase of the 1 kHz frequencies contains the same information as the phase of the multiple frequency. In addition to this use of in surveying the multiple CW radar method of measuring range has been applied in the range instrumentation radar. For the method of measuring the range has been applied in radar instrument radar for measurement of the distance to a transponder equipped missile, the distance to satellite. In satellite navigation systems, based on the radar measurement and for detecting the presence of an obstacle in the path of a moving automobile by measuring the distance, the Doppler velocity and the sign of the Doppler, whether the target is approaching or receding. So these are the applications using multiple frequency CW radar. So now the main difference between the multiple CW radar and whereas the conventional CW radar is, so whereas in CW radar there we will consider only 2 frequencies. So whereas here we consider more than 3 frequencies. As we want to get more and more accuracy, we need to use more and more frequencies. So that is the only reason why we are going for the multiple CW radar rather than with CW radar. Now we'll go with the applications of CW radar. So already we have seen the operation of the CW radar in previous classes. Depending on the operation of the CW radar, we have enormous applications, and so we'll discuss a few more applications on which are used in CW radar. So first is the unmodulated CW radar is for the measurement of the relative velocity of moving target. So as in police speed monitor or in previously mentioned, the rate of incline meter for vertical takeoff aircraft. In supporting of automobile traffic, CWA has been suggested for the control of the traffic lights, the regulations of toll booths, vehicle counting as replacement for the wheel speedometer in vehicle testing, as a sensor in anti-clock braking system, and for collision avoidance. For railways also, we are using CW radar. It can be used as a speedometer to replace the conventional axle driven tachometer. So already we know the tachometer is nothing but it is used to measure the velocity. So in such an application, it could be unaffected by the error caused by the wheel slip on accelerating or wheel slide when braking. It has been used for the measurement of railroad car velocity during the humping operation in marshalling ads, and as a detection device to give track maintenance personal advance warning of the approaching trains. CW radar is also employed for monitoring the docking speeds of the larger ships. Also, you see in application for alarms and for the measurement of the velocity of missiles, ammunition, and the baseballs. The principal advantage of CW radar, Doppler radar, over the other methods of measurement is measuring the speed, is that there need not to be any physical contact with the object whose speed is being measured. This is the main advantage of CW radar. In industry, this has been applied to the measurement of the turbulent rate, vibration, the peripheral speed of the grinding wheels, and monitoring of vibration in the cables of the suspension bridges. Most of the above applications can be satisfied with a simple solid state CW source with powers in terms of milliwatts. High power CW radar for the detection of aircraft and other targets have been developed and have been used in such system as Hawkeye missile systems. However, the difficulty of eliminating the leakage of the transmitting signal into the receiver has limited the utility of unmodulated CW radar for many long-range applications. A notable exception is space surveillance radar system for detecting satellites. The CW transmitter is used at 216 MHz, radiates a power up to 1 megawatt from an antenna almost 2 missiles 2 miles long to produce a narrow vertical liquid cavity. The receiver is separated from the transmitter by a distance of several hundred miles. Each receiver site consists of an antenna to obtain an angle measurement in the plane of the fan beam. There are 3 sets of transmitter receiver stations to provide to cover of the southern unit states. The CW radar, when used for a short or moderate ranges, is characterized by simpler equipment than pulse radar. Amount of power that can be used with a CW radar is dependent on the isolation that can be achieved between the transmitter and the receiver. Since the transmitter noise defines into the receiver limits the receiver sensitivity, the pulse radar has no similar limitation to its maximum range because of the transmitter is not operative when the receiver is turned on. Perhaps one of the greatest shortcomings of the simple CW radar is its inability to contain a measurement of the range. This limitation can be overcome by modulating the CW carrier, as in the simple modulated radar described. Some anti-air warfare guided missile system employ semi-active homing guidance in which a receiver in the missile receives energy from the target. The energy having been transmitting from an illuminator external to the missile. The illuminator, for example, might be at the launch platform. CW illumination has been used in many successful systems. These are the different applications of CW radar. So we have further more applications. So if you are using FMCW radar, the applications of multiple frequency, and one of the more important application of the FMCW radars or the airborne Doppler navigation. So an important requirement of the aircraft flights is for a self-contained navigation system capable of operating anywhere over the surface of the air under any conditions of the visibility of the weather. It should provide the necessary data for piloting the aircraft from one position to another position without the need of the navigation information transmitted to the aircraft or from a ground station. One method of obtaining a self-contained aircraft navigation system is based on the CW Doppler radar frequency. A Doppler radar can provide the drift angle and cruise speed of the aircraft relative to the Earth. The drift angle is the angle between the horizontal projection of the center length of the aircraft, which is heading towards, and the horizontal component of the aircraft velocity. So that is what ground track. From the ground speed and drift angle measurements. An aircraft with a Doppler radar whose antenna beam their angle will receive a Doppler shifted echo signal from the ground. The shift in the frequency is given by F is equals to F 2 into F naught divided by C into cos theta. So here F naught is nothing but the carrier frequency. A Doppler navigation radar measures the vector velocity relative to the frame of the reference of the antenna assembly. To convert this vector velocity to a horizontal reference on the ground, the direction of the vertical must be determined by some auxiliary means. The heading of the aircraft, as might be obtained from the compass, must also be known for proper navigation. The vertical reference may be used either to stabilize the antenna beam system so as to align within the horizontal, or alternately the antennas might be fixed relative to the aircraft and the ground velocity component is calculated with a computer. A Doppler navigation radar with forward and backward beams is called a Janus system. After Roman to look at both forward and backward at the same time, assume initially that the two forward and two backward beams are symmetrically disposed about the axis of the aircraft. If the aircraft velocity is not in the same direction as the aircraft is heading towards, the Doppler frequency in the two forward beams will not be the same. The difference in the frequency must be used to generate an error signal in a servo mechanism which rotates the antennas until the Doppler frequencies are equal, indicating that the axis of the antenna is aligned to the ground track of the aircraft. The angular displacements of the antenna from the aircraft heading is a drift angle, and the magnitude of the Doppler is a measurement of the speed along the ground track. The use of the two backward beams in conjunction with the two forward beams results in a considerable improvement in accuracy. It eliminates the error introduced by vertical motion of the aircraft and reduces the error caused by the movements of the antenna. Navigation may also be performed with only two antenna beams if some auxiliary means used to obtain third coordinate. Two beams gives the two components of the aircraft velocity tangent to the surface of the air. The third component, the vertical velocity is needed and may be provided from some non-Doppler sources such as barometric rate of climbing. The primary advantage of the two beam system is a reduction in equipment. So, however, the accuracy is not as good as with the system which are using 3 or 4 beams. In the principle, the CW radar would seem to be the ideal method of obtaining Doppler navigation information. But in practice, leakage between the transmitter and receiver can limit the sensitivity of the CW radar navigation, just as it does in CW radar. One more method of eliminating efforts of leakage by pulsing the transmitter and turning the receiver off the duration of the transmitted pulse in the manner similar to the pulse Doppler radar. The pulse Doppler mode of operation has the further advantage in what each beam can operate with a single antenna for both the transmitter as well as the receiver. Whereas a CW radar must usually employ two separate antennas in order to achieve the need of the isolation. The high PRF, although it gives unambiguous Doppler, usually results in ambiguous range. But more important that a pulse radar echo arrives back to the radar, it will not detect it. So thus, the altitude holes exist at or need those altitudes where the echo time is an intellectual multiple of the pulse simplification method. Techniques exist for reducing the undesired effects of altitude holes, but not with the same inconvenience of fast of the overall performance. So these are the applications of CW radar, and further go with further more applications of CW radar, nothing but which can be operated. Typically, one beam is directed ahead and to the right of the ground track, and other aircraft and to left the system. A forward left and right also fed the transmitter as a second channel. Another method of achieving the necessary isolation in Doppler navigation radar is with a sinusoidal frequency modulator CW radar systems. By frequency modulating the transmission, the leakage signal may be reduced relative to the signal from the grounded, extracting a harmonic of the modulating frequency and taking advantage of one of the higher order function. It has been claimed that the Doppler navigation system based on the principle can provide around 150 dB of isolation. The Doppler navigation over the land can provide a measurement of ground speed with a standard deviation of around 0.13 to 0.5%. Over water, the accuracy are slightly very low. So the backscatter energy over water expected for the near vertical distances. It results the center of the Doppler spectrum being shifted so that the direction as determined from the Doppler spectrum will differ from that of the center of the antenna beam. This is sometimes called the calibration shift error. This error can be corrected by loop switching, or that is periodically switching the antenna beam a small amount of in directions at a low rate. Two displaced Doppler frequency spectra are produced at the two antenna positions. In narrow tracking filter tracks, the crossover the two spectra, the frequency of this crossover is same for water as well as for the land. Hence, there will be no bias error on water. A very narrow antenna beam will also reduce the water bias error without need or loop switching. So another source of error is the mass movement of the water caused by the currents and winds, which results a Doppler frequency shift in addition to the caused by the aircraft motion. These are the different applications of the CW radar. So with this concept, so almost we have completed second unit. So in the second unit already we have seen so different types of CW radars, FM CW radar and multiple frequency CW radar, and what are the main applications which can be used practically. We have discussed here. In our next class, we will go with the summary of the unit number 2. So that is there we discuss so all the important points and all the major points and all the operations of all the different types of CW radars again. So that gives you more information about the unit number 2, and it will be very useful for you to find an important points in unit number 2. Thank you. So we'll see in the next class with the summary of the unit number 2. Thank you.